Hi, hello viewers, welcome back to my channel once again. This is Dharanz. Welcome to Code with Dharanz. In this video, we're going to look at how to create a simple to-do list web application using only JavaScript and jQuery. When you go through these kind of real world application, you will get to know more JavaScript and jQuery programming languages and the logics behind in it and the relationship between the DOM elements and the programming languages. So let's get started. Now I have already created a to-do list. This is what we're gonna exactly duplicate it. This is to-do list application. I have a text box here. Once I type in and hit enter, it will be added as a list. And once I click done, it will be strike out as it has done. And once I click again, it will be come to the back status, which is not done. And once I double click on the word, it will be get deleted from the list. This is what we're gonna do. For example, how many lists will be there, and there's the exact thing that we're gonna replicate. Let's see how we can do it with JavaScript and jQuery. As you can see, I have a couple of files in here under the to-do folder. One is index.html and one is index.js. And this is the output of the file. Of course, nothing is in there. Now I'm gonna create this application from the Bootstrap 5 framework. In order to implement the Bootstrap 5 basic template, just go to getbootstrap.com. You'll get into the latest Bootstrap 5 site. Once you get started, if we come down, you can see the starter template. Just copy this whole starter template, go to your Visual Studio Code and paste it. Remove optional commands. And I'm gonna change the title as to-do app. And I have to reference this JavaScript file into this HTML. So let's say script source index.js. That's it. And we have to import the jQuery CDN as well. I have a Google jQuery CDN. That's it. Just save it. Go ahead. Control F5. Here we go. It works fine. Now I'm gonna create first the header. The header. Just create a header. To-do list. It has to be H4, and I have to create a text box. If we know the Bootstrap, it will be really helpful to how we go through the grid systems. In that website itself, you can go and find how Bootstrap works and how to create awesome websites with the Bootstrap framework. Now, I'm gonna skip all the steps. I'm gonna create a text box. There's a row under the column grid, the typical Bootstrap containers. Inside it, I have an input type and form control, placeholder, type something here, ID, and the name as text task. Save it, go ahead, run it. Here we go. We have to-do list and our text box. If you see our application, these to-do lists and text box are centrally aligned, elegant, but here it is awful because the text box is dominating the whole container flow element. We gotta change that and make this as look exactly as this to-do list. So we have to create style inside the head. I'm gonna create style tab. Inside style, for a body, I'm gonna apply padding for 2em. Now once you save it, go ahead here. Now it has aligned because I have given a padding for old body as 2 a.m. Now it's kind of looks centrally aligned, but it is okay for this web application. After that, now when I type something in here and hit enter, we should grab the value and we have to add that into the list and loop the list. This is what the process that we're gonna go through. So first we have to type it and press enter. After enter, we have to get the exact value which we have entered into the text box. To do that, go to index.js. In index.js, just create dollar document.ready function. Inside the document.ready function, we have a text task that is our input text inputs ID. Here you can see text task function. Open the function. Inside it, we have to check the key code. In this kind of situation, when you press at enter, we have to get the key code. If the key code matches the exact key which you wanna grab the data in the event, we can go like key.cat code for 13. The enter keys key code is 13. Inside this, I can set as alert as whatever value is in this text task. Save it. Go ahead. Run it. I am typing a sample. When I hit enter, I'm getting alert at sample. Okay, 2. I'm getting 2. Fantastic. But when you type it, the text box should be empty after we grab the value. So for that, after the alert, you have to say $this dot value. We should empty the value. That's it. Go ahead, refresh it, sample, hit it. Okay, then here we go. Easy peasy. Now we set all them. Now what I have to do, we have to create the list. Whenever we type it, click enter, we have to add the value into the list and looping it inside the UL tag. That's what we're going to do. For that, we have to create a list. I am setting the name as to-do list. It's an objects of an array like JSON. If you see my JSON video, I have clearly explained what JSON is. Everything is in JSON. Is a valid JavaScript. Is an objects of arrays. I have given a card. If you haven't watched it, go ahead and check it. Now we have to create one function as add list. Before we empty the value, we have to store the value into this to-do list. So we need one function called add list. It takes the task name. Now we have to push some values into the to-do list. So push okay. Inside it, I'm gonna create a 3 properties. First one is ID, because in order to delete or in order to change the status of a single row, we need an ID. Since we are not having a relationship with a database connection, we have to create a random ID for each and every row. From that, we can have an access for the single row in order to do the events. So for the ID, I'm setting this as ID. It should be math.floor math.random into, it has to be between 3 digits, so 999. The next property should be name. The name should be task name. Next property is, in order to change the status, is done. The default one is false. That's it. Now you have to call this function instead of lat. Now we have passed the value as a task name in here. Once you do it, we can have like console.log this to-do list to see how it works. Save it, go ahead, run it. I am inspecting it. Console. Once you type it, 1 sample 2. If you open it, we have the random ID has been generated successfully. That is between 3 digits versus 1 sample. Everything is working fine. You might wonder, we have added 2 values, but it shows as 3 arrays because it considers the default one is array object 1. I have given this for a purpose to check whether it is empty or not. There is no issues. You do it. Once you looping it and show it into the UI tag as a list, you can ignore this first element as simply specifying I is equal to 1 in your for loop. So this is fine. Everything is working fine then. Now we have to create one function as load list that we gonna loop the list and into that UL class. So I gonna create one function called load list. We should call this load list immediately after the value has gotten empty. That's it. And in what I have to do inside the load list, first we have to create a UL element. Inside the UL element, we have to append the dynamic LI elements into the tag. If you see here, I just want to create another row inside the row column. Here, this is an UL element, which is list group. We have to create one list item group and append it by looping it into this resultant dynamically. So how to do it? In order to do that, first what you have to do inside the list group, it's a best practice to check what you are looping it. So let me create li. The li should have something. I am hard coding it for to check what we are gonna do it. Li, I have to create the class. Okay. This is a class. And let's see, save it. Go ahead, refreshing it. Here, our list has been added. So this is what we're gonna do exactly. We are going to give a dynamic data into this by replacing this only text. So we need those uh, badges to show the status whether the record has been set as done or not. So for that, we have to create a span. So I can give this inside the div. Now there is a span. Span should have a class and the span status. Save it, go ahead, run it. Here we go. Exactly, this is what we're gonna do. Now what you can do, you can copy the whole thing and place it inside the JS inside the append function. So before we do that, each and every time the loop we are looping, we have to empty this result list. So result list I have emptied, and I'm gonna create a for loop. This for loop takes to-do list length. As I told you, I have started from I is equal to 1 because we have to ignore the first array value. And inside this, I have to create a function. I just want to show you, I just want to teach you a simple trick. Whenever you copy this whole value and paste it inside the string, inside that single quotes, you will get this breaks because this string is no longer linear. It the JavaScript considered this as an individual standalone statement, so it doesn't. When you click it, that is nothing. That is not in the programming languages. It's not related to any coding patterns. So what you have to do, instead of the single quotes, you have to do a backtick. You can find the key left side of your number 1. So do backtick. Now it is working fine. Instead of sample data, we have to create a to-do list I name. Once you do a backtick in a ES6 JavaScript, you can write a whole JavaScript code inside the string instead of doing plus single quotes like those blah blah blah. So for a span, as of now, we can leave this as empty. Save it. Go ahead and run it. We have to delete this data, of course, the hard-coded one. Now we can get rid of it. Now type a sample, sample2, sample3. Well done. We did it. Since we are not storing this value anywhere else, once you refresh it, you will delete all the values. All the values will be gone. So as you open this, as the web browser is longer open, you will save all your to-do list. It will be useful to track your short-term uh, tasks. Whether if you are on a system for a couple of hours, you can track this one do, this one do. This is kind of a real-time application practice, or this is a kind of an application which I use in my personal when we create this as a desktop application by using Electron. I have also created the video about how to create your web applications into your desktop applications. I've given a card. Please go ahead and check it. Now we're gonna implement the delete functionality before we're gonna update. We are going to update the status because delete is as simple as the adding list functionality. So when we double click it, we have to delete this record. For that, we have a double click event in our HTML. So when we double click on the name, we have to get the ID of this record. So we have on double click event. Inside the on double click event, I am calling delete list. Inside the delete list, I am passing the ID of this record. So I'm gonna create function called delete list. Inside, you are getting an ID. In order to remove the value from the list or a JSON, simply you have to create one function called remove node. In the remove node, we have to pass an ID. First, we have to filter the data with a matching ID. If the task ID is equal to the ID which we are passing, we have to return false because that's the data we have to remove it. So this is the data we have to remove it. The rest of the cases we have to return as true. We have to return this as well. So here the to-do list itself is equal to remove node. We have to pass an ID, and after we remove, we have to load the list back. Save it, go ahead and run it. 1, 2, 3, 4, everything added. Once you double click it, it will be get deleted. Fantastic. Now our only problem is to change the status as done or not done. For that, when the status is done, we have to strike out this and we have to change the UI as well. You understood it, because we are dynamically adding this UI. So whenever the change happens, we have to do something with this. So when we click done, we have to change the status. So obviously we have to create on click function inside the span. So I am creating on click function. This takes an ID. I am creating a set done. It takes an ID. I am creating a function called setDone here. I'm keeping it setDone here. Inside setDone function, I have to get the index of the particular row. So object index to-do list dot find index obj. We have to check the ID. Now we got the index. What I have to do inside the to-do list, we have to change the value is done as false if it's true. So object index dot is done is equal to, normally in these situations what others do, if the done is true we have to change as false, if the done is false we have to change as true. In terms of these situations, normally before I learned one trick, I was doing like insert, if it's true it has to be false or true, like a conditional operators. You no longer want to do this. Instead of doing this, simply put an exclamation mark and get rid of rest of the code. Here you could see to-do list is done. If it's true, it will be false. If it's false, it will be true. It will automatically get the value which we are expecting to do it. Of course, after we done an operation, we have to run the load list as well. I am, after set done, console.log to-do list. I just want to show you what's happened inside this list when we click set done. So go ahead, run it. Just click to one. Once you click done, nothing has changed. The ID2 is done as true. The list has been successfully updated, but not the UI. In terms of do it, we have to do some modifications inside the UI. For that, we have to check first the to-do list dot done is true or not. So if it's not true, we have to do something. If it's true, we have to do something. If it's true, we have to change these data as done as said done. We have to strike out this name. If it's false, we can simply copy it, paste it. Because if it's false, it has to be done. If it's true, just copy it, paste it. Inside this name, you have to create strike as an UI element, as a tag, And when you click, this had to be not done. So save it, go ahead, run it. Yeah, run. Here, once you click done, it will change as not done, and you got the strikeout. When you click it again, here we got the data back. When you double click it, it got deleted. So our problem, we found the solution for our problem. Our to-do list has become a full-fledged web application. So here we have another tweak. Now, in the to-do list application, when you hover the done, it's appearing as a pointer, but here it is appearing as a text pointer, which I don't like it. So in terms of doing, we can handle it in a CSS. So I am taking the class name called roundpill and changing the roundpill pointer cursor into pointer. That's it. Go ahead, run it, type it. That's it. When you hover it, you can get pointer, done, undone, deleted, you got deleted. That's all about it, guys, for this videos. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any doubts, just comment me below, or you can reach out to my Instagram or a Facebook page as much as possible. I can try to help you out with that. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon to get my latest video updates. I'll meet you in another fantastic concept. Thank you.